The Galactic Council had run out of patience with humans. Marcus Chen stood before the towering crystalline tribunal, his wrists bound in energy shackles that hummed with alien technology. The charges against him were numerous: illegal arms dealing, smuggling contraband across 3 star systems, and the particularly heinous crime of teaching primitive species how to build faster-than-light engines. The assembled representatives of 12 different species glowered down at him with eyes that ranged from compound to multidimensional. "Human Marcus Chen," intoned the lead judge, a being that resembled a cross between a jellyfish and a geometric theorem, "you have been found guilty of violating Galactic Statute 847 Delta. Your punishment is exile to the death maze of Kepler 442b. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Even among the galaxy's most hardened criminals, the death maze was considered a fate worse than execution. It was an ancient structure, built by a long-extinct civilization as the ultimate test of intelligence and survival. Thousands had entered over the millennia. None had ever emerged. Marcus simply shrugged. "Sounds like Tuesday." The transport ship deposited him at the maze's entrance 72 hours later. The structure loomed before him like a metallic mountain, its walls stretching up into Kepler 442b's orange-tinged atmosphere. The entrance was a simple archway, deceptively welcoming. Warning signs in 17 different languages proclaimed the same message: "Abandon hope, all you who enter." Someone had scratched "Lasciate ogni speranza" beneath them in crude letters. Marcus smiled. At least one human had been here before. He stepped inside. The first thing that tried to kill him was the floor. It dissolved beneath his feet, revealing a pit filled with what appeared to be sentient acid. Marcus grabbed a protruding pipe and swung himself to safety, landing on a narrow ledge. As he caught his breath, he pulled out a battered notebook and sketched the trap's location and mechanism. "Note to self," he muttered, scribbling in the margins. "Pressure-sensitive dissolution plates. Market value for trap schematics medium." The maze was a masterpiece of malevolent engineering. Walls shifted when he wasn't looking. Corridors led to rooms that defied 3-dimensional geometry, and the very air sometimes became toxic without warning. Most beings would have panicked, despaired, or simply given up. Marcus treated it like a puzzle. By day 3, he had mapped the first sector and identified 17 different trap types. By day 7, he had figured out the maze's basic logic system. It was designed to test not just physical survival, but psychological resilience, mathematical reasoning, and creative problem-solving. By day 14, he had established the first rule of death maze economics. Information was the most valuable commodity. The breakthrough came on day 21. Marcus had been tracking the maze's behavioral patterns when he noticed something the ancient builders hadn't anticipated. The structure was learning from him, adapting to his methods. But it was also becoming predictable in its adaptations. More importantly, he realized he wasn't alone. Hidden throughout the maze were other prisoners, beings who had survived the initial challenges but had become trapped in safe zones, too terrified to venture deeper. Marcus found them huddled in alcoves and dead-end chambers, some driven mad by isolation, others barely clinging to sanity. That's when Marcus Chen, convicted criminal and alleged scourge of civilized space, did the most human thing possible. He started a business. "Listen up, folks," he announced to a gathering of survivors in what used to be a torture chamber and was now his improvised conference room. "I've got something you want, a way out. But I've also got overhead. Operational costs, you know how it is." The price was information. Each survivor paid with their knowledge of the sections they had explored, the traps they had encountered, the patterns they had observed. A Zephyrian trader gave him the locations of 3 hidden supply caches. A crystalline monk shared the mathematical sequences that disabled certain barrier types. A void-touched assassin revealed the maze's temporal distortion zones. Marcus compiled it all, cross-referenced it with his own observations, and created the most comprehensive guide to the death maze ever assembled. Then he made copies. 6 weeks after his imprisonment, Marcus Chen walked out of the maze's exit portal, carrying a waterproof bag full of hand-drawn maps and a business plan that would have made his old arms-dealing operation look like a lemonade stand. The Galactic Council was still in session when he arrived. "Impossible," breathed the jellyfish theorem judge. "The death maze has never been conquered." "Oh, I didn't conquer it," Marcus replied, setting his bag on the defendant's table. "I franchised it. See, you folks made a fundamental error in your understanding of human nature. You thought the maze would break me down, isolate me, force me to face my mortality alone. He opened the bag and spread out his maps. But humans? We don't do alone. We do community. We do trade. We do mutual aid and information sharing and turning impossible problems into profitable solutions. He held up his master map, detailed down to the centimeter. I've got 47 verified routes through your inescapable maze, complete with trap locations, safe zones, and resource caches. Starting bid is 50,000 credits per copy. The silence in the chamber was profound. Furthermore, Marcus continued, I'm prepared to offer navigation services for future prisoners at competitive rates. Think of it as a humanitarian effort. Or don't. I'm still making money either way. The void-touched judge finally found his voice. This is unprecedented. This is human, Marcus corrected. You wanted to punish me by putting me in an impossible situation? I turned it into a networking opportunity. You wanted to break my spirit with isolation? I built a community. You wanted to watch me die alone and forgotten? He gestured to the map spread before him, each one representing dozens of lives saved and a dozen different ways to monetize survival itself. I opened a consulting firm. The charges against Marcus Chen were quietly dropped. The death maze was decommissioned 6 months later when it became clear that humans had turned it into a tourist destination. The Galactic Council spent the next decade trying to figure out how to regulate an economy based on selling survival guides to death traps. They never did figure it out. Marcus Chen retired wealthy, respected, and completely unrepentant. He kept one of the original maps framed in his office with a small plaque beneath it that read, Humans, turning your worst nightmare into their side hustle since 2157.